Roger Stone here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history. That's actual physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or you're retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/stone right now for your free Roger Stone Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit. Or call 800-747-6589. That's 800-747-6589. Call now to receive your free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.
We got two A-plus aces. Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, his new book, Progressively Worse, why today's Democrats ain't your daddy's donkeys, and my great pal Roger Stone, who I got to see last night at the big WABC Gala for the first time in a long while. He looked great. Roger's the host of WABC Radio's The Roger Stone Show, Sundays 3 to 6 p.m. on many of these very same stations. Gentlemen, welcome. To set the table, there seems to be two big events. Trump's New York economic speech, and secondly, these lawfare weaponization court cases. I won't say they've been thrown out, but they've both been deferred. Alvin Bragg and Merchant in New York, and the J6 case in Washington. The ones down in South Florida, that may never come to fruition, and the one in Hotlanta, Georgia, with this crazy Fannie Willis one may never come to fruition. So, good economic speech. Some good luck for Trump on the court stuff. Now, Roger Stone, did you get him back? All right, we'll try to get him back. So I got my pal Joe Concha. But it's interesting, Joe, I mean, I don't live and die by polls. Polls are snapshots in time. Some polls are better than others. Donald Trump always underpolls because his people don't like nosy phone calls. And I'm just interested, this Nate Silver, who doesn't have a fabulous batting average, but people pay attention to him. So anyway, let's start with this, Joe Concha. August 23rd, Kamala Harris 53.5, Donald Trump 46.1. So we'll call that 2 weeks ago, more than 2 weeks ago. September 6th, Joe, Donald Trump 61.5, Kamala Harris 38.3. Holy cow. And
wow.
That's a big number. And let me add, the poly market betting pay to play, Trump's ahead 51-48. Now, that's just nationwide. We're going to get to the swing states in a minute. They're even more incredible. But Trump has gone from 46.1 to 61.5 in, 2 weeks. What's going on here, Joe Concha? Any ideas?
I was just jotting down the math and all that. You realize that's a 32-point swing where Kamala has gone backwards and Trump has gone forward?
I'll tell you.
I think she began to speak outside of her best friend, Mr. Teleprompter, and people did not like what they were hearing. I think you talk about Trump's economic speech. I think her economic speech that she unveiled in North Carolina, where she talked about price fixing on places like supermarkets, where our friend John Katsimatidis will tell you the profit margin's like 1-2% maybe. So to say that they're price gouging, well, they're not doing a very good job of price gouging. Nobody likes the fact when the government steps in and says, okay, you could only charge this much for this, and obviously that would lead to inflation. So that was a big no-no. I think those Gold Star families, in all those devastating videos that they put out after Kamala Harris attacked Donald Trump for having the audacity of going to Arlington National Cemetery and that fake controversy, I think that hurt her as well. I think that parent-teacher conference interview that she did with Tim Walz and Dana Bash on CNN, where she lacked energy, if that's what it looked like, I'm sorry. He's the emotional support animal, like just sitting there staring, adding nothing to the conversation.
It's all about grammar, Joe.
This is true.
It's not lying through your teeth. It's about grammar.
It's about grammar, yes. And in the end, I think the joy that the media was helping Kamala Harris spread in August, in the greatest month any politician has ever had from a media coverage perspective, I think the reality of the last 3.5 years and the reality that still stands today in September, where people are like, yeah, I'm still paying way too much for groceries and way too much for rent and way too much for gas. And I don't really feel any different. I don't feel joy. I think the reality is set in. The fact that the more she talks, the more she goes downhill. It's 2019 all over again.
Very interesting. Roger Stone, welcome. Look, what do you think is attributable to this amazing swing. I'm going to wait till you actually hold on. Let me give you the swing states again from Nate Silver. Pennsylvania. This is just hard for me to believe. Pennsylvania, Trump 62, Harris 38. Pennsylvania. Michigan, Trump 52, Harris 48. Wisconsin 52-48 for Trump. Arizona, hold on to your seats. Arizona, Trump 75, Harris 25. I mean, that's unbelievable. Georgia, 67-33, Trump. Nevada, 59-41, Trump. Now, these are probability estimates. I don't know, Roger, maybe you know what his methodology is, Nate Silver. I don't. But, you know, I'm using it. I know it's not votes. These are just polls or probabilities. But the fact is, these are big numbers. That's all I can say, Roger. What do you think?
Well, of course, Nate Silver told us that Hillary Clinton had a 91% chance of winning in 2016. That was his final prediction. Look, the electorate is extremely volatile. The number of gettable undecideds is very small. Pool is very small. Interestingly enough, they have an unfavorable view of both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. I suspect the race is indeed relatively close.
Yeah.
You pointed out something very important, and that is that Donald Trump has always underpolled, meaning there are just folks out there in this atmosphere who are not going to tell a stranger on the internet or on the telephone that they're voting for Donald Trump. They don't want to be harassed. They don't want to be targeted. It was not always that way, but let's face it, polls used to be conducted face-to-face on your doorstep. That's the way, Elmo Roper did it. That's the way George Gallup did it. So I think that the race is close. It was always going to be close. Some of my Republican friends at the great convention that we had in Milwaukee were talking about a landslide. This was never going to be a landslide for two reasons. You have a largely hostile mainstream media. While they're not monolithic like they used to be, they're still extremely influenced. And then my greater concern, which is quite simply censorship. Elements of the U.S. government have already said that they are going to police disinformation in this election. Larry, disinformation, those are the things we believe. In other words, it's anything they say it is. So the race is close. It's going to be close. I think Trump is in the stronger position.
He's had a good couple of weeks, actually. Not only the Economics Club speech, which, as I said earlier, was televised in its entirety by Fox News and Fox Business, and both of those networks, and of course I'm biased, I work for them, but both of those networks have enormous, by far the biggest cable viewership. But also Trump has held a couple of press conferences talking about the economy and the kind of price increases that Joe Concha was talking about. I think that's good. I think Kamala's interview with Dana Bash bombed, okay? I think I agree with Joe. The price gouging speech before the convention bombed. She never got a bounce after the convention. The Gold Star Families thing at the Arlington National Cemetery bombed for her. For Trump, it was a big win, I think. Let me just read you the betting odds. These are people who have to pay to play. Are tighter, but still interesting. This is Poly Market, which is the widest betting. Trump is ahead 51-48, 3 points. Arizona, he's ahead 62-38. Nevada, 53-47. Georgia, 60-40. Now, Michigan, Harris is ahead 54-46. Wisconsin, Harris is ahead 56-44. And lastly, Pennsylvania, Trump is ahead +8, 54-46. Those are the pay-to-play betting on. Now, Roger's right. This stuff, jumps around, and it's early, and it's going to be a tight race. But I guess, Joe Concha, what I'm suggesting is number one issue in the country is the economy, followed closely by the border. Trump is out there meeting with the press, taking questions, and giving speeches, including the New York Economics Club. And I think people are listening. They had a little glimpse of Kamala when she put her head above water in that terrible price gouging speech and that terrible interview with Dana Bash. So that's the way I see it. I think you've had a momentum swing. We're going into the debate, so let's think about that. This stuff, I thought Trump's economic speech will bridge right into the debate. But anyway, the debate's in a couple days. What is it? Tuesday night, ABC, 9 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. Joe Concha, what do you make of that?
Well, I think everything you just said, it's becoming like this contrast election where you couldn't have a stronger contrast. Trump looks strong and Kamala looks weak. He looks confident and she looks scared. And that's not just my opinion. I look at the numbers. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump have done 37 interviews in the past month.
Wow. Oh.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have done one, and they had to do it together. In other words, neither one of them has done a solo interview yet. So after a while, people see this, and they see through the phoniness, and especially in Pennsylvania, where it is on tape. And it's not like grainy video from like 1994. This is when she ran for president just a couple of years ago, where she said she was 100% against fracking. And she said it over and over again. Wants to end fossil fuels, wants to end all offshore drilling, and now even she's gone back on her banning straws position, where no, actually she's pro paper straws. So go figure on that one, or plastic, excuse me. So when people see all these flip-flops, they're reminded of, and I think we may have spoken about this before, they're reminded of John Kerry. They're reminded of Michael Dukakis. They're reminded of Democratic candidates who have run in the past and didn't have any convictions, just said what they had to say to get elected, and flip-flopped on everything based on polls and based on what they think people want. And the phoniness, especially in states like Pennsylvania, and again, Nate Silver says whoever wins Pennsylvania has a 94% chance of winning the election. Because you think about it for Trump, he wins Pennsylvania. All he has to do is win Arizona and Georgia, and he wins the election.
Yeah,
and those look very, very strong for him right now. So that's where we're at. One looks phony, and one is always the same guy that he's been since he came onto the political stage June 2015.
Roger, you look at all this stuff. I was at the New York Economics Club Thursday. Big crowd, 500 people, some odd. Wall Street's not a Republican stronghold like it used to be. In fact, Wall Street's moved considerably to the left. I will bet you that Joe Biden won Wall Street in 2020. Anyway, my point is they were sat there. You could have heard a pin drop as Trump walked through his whole agenda on the economy. Now, he had the border in there also, which is good. But big picture themes that we know about: deregulation, tax cutting, energy independence, fair trade. But he also had a lot of details, Roger. This is where I'm going with this. Details. A chief executive should know details. Chief executive of a company should know what the hell's going on specifically inside his company. Chief executive of the United States and the executive branch, which is enormous, should know what's going on, should know what the machinery is. And I think Trump demonstrated that. And now, here's where I'm going, Roger. I don't mean to be long-winded, but in the debate, I think Trump will show not just his big pictures and other ripostes to her left-wing policies, but he will show some details that she completely lacks. What you think?
I think you're right. I mean, she has a fundamental problem. She gets hurt more when she puts forward proposals than when she just keeps her mouth shut. Between her capital gains proposal and her housing proposal, which she seems to have borrowed from Andrew Cuomo, you remember the subprime mortgage meltdown, don't you?
Yep.
She has nothing whatsoever to run on, which is why occasionally she steals directly from Donald Trump. No tax on tips. Oh, by the way, she's also going to crack down and close the border. She's going to hire hundreds of new Border Patrol agents. The fundamental problem here is she can't run on Joe Biden's record because it's a disaster. And she has no record independent of that because she was part of this administration. She really has nothing interesting to say that isn't problematic. And when she's tried, it's backfired very badly. Trump's got a record to run on, and it's an incredible record. And she's going to either have to imitate it and try to pretend I'm going to take us in a new direction. I guess if I were Dana Bash, I would have asked her, what exactly will you do today that is different than what Joe Biden and you are already doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. But, of course, you didn't get that question. Good point. Kids, I got to take a break here. We'll come back. On the other side of the break, there's a lot of headlines around. Breitbart, The Federalist, lots of places. Conservative super PAC hits Democrats over anti-Catholic bigotry in the western states, Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada. Very interesting. Roger Stone, Joe Concha, I'm Kudlow. Be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking politics. Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, in his latest book, Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Your Daddy's Donkeys. And Roger Stone, veteran political consultant to Republican presidents and host of WABC Radio's The Roger Stone Show, playing on Sunday, 3 to 6 p.m. on many of these very same stations. I want to talk about this Catholic war going on. Very interesting. A conservative super PAC is putting out Frontiers of Freedom Action. That's what I was looking for. Frontiers of Freedom Action. It's got a 2-minute ad on local stations in Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico, highlighting the anti-Catholic records of Ruben Gallego, who's running Democrat in Arizona. He's a crazy person. He's so far to the left. Senator Jackie Rosen, the incumbent in Nevada, and Senator Martin Heinrich, the incumbent in New Mexico. And these ads, I'm not going to go through all of it, but basically, Little Sisters of the Poor, forcing Biden tried to force them to provide contraceptions. The story about the FBI targeting traditional Catholics as domestic terrorists. And on abortion, the lawmakers opposed the law that would have protected newborn abortion. Now, this is powerful stuff, and these are 3 important states. Roger Stone, I'll begin with you. And they're spending a lot of money on these ads, Roger. What you make of it?
I think it could potentially be quite effective. This is going to be one of those elections that when it's over, you're never going to be able to point to any one thing that made the difference. So efforts like this that are highly pinpointed in their targeting, and by the way, they don't base those messages on guessing or theories. They're taking sophisticated survey research, polling, to find out if it actually has the potential to move voters. I think it's additive. There's many independent groups here who are operating entirely independent of the Trump campaign. Many of them are doing extremely effective work. I think this is an example of one of those.
You know, Joe Concha, to add on, a lot of the ads are targeting Hispanics, particularly, of course, Hispanic churchgoers. I mean, people forget this. I won't say some people forget this. Some political analysts, predominant religion among Hispanics is Catholic. And, coming from Mexico, coming from South America, Latin America, Central America. And I don't know what the percentage is, but a lot of them go to church. So Hispanic Catholic churchgoers is a key target in Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico amongst this population. So there you have it. I mean, this is like a little Western uprising, if you ask me.
Completely, and you're so right about Hispanics being highly religious folks for the most part, and now these ads are powerful. You're right, because you're looking at the Democrats, and they have an anti-Catholic problem. They also have an anti-Jewish problem, as we have seen.
Yes.
And maybe that's why Josh Shapiro wasn't the 1-inch putt pick that Kamala Harris should have made over goofy Tim Walz. So look, Donald Trump won the Catholic vote in 2020 narrowly over Joe Biden, who touts himself as like the greatest Catholic ever. So that was interesting that Trump still captured that demographic, and that's what you have to do, I guess, with these sort of elections where You have to go after certain groups that you know are not happy with the way they're being portrayed and the way they're being treated and the things being shoved down their throats like contraception. So it's smart. And again, Arizona and Nevada, very important states. If Trump could win Pennsylvania, like we said before, picks off Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, either or, he's your next president.
I got it. Gentlemen, thank you. Joe Concha, Roger Stone, great stuff.